Hello, one and all, and welcome to Film Fragments, a podcast where we take fragments of an actor, director, or genre and tell you our favorites from their catalog. My name is Bryan Suffield. I'm your host. We are back from a hiatus. I needed a nice, relaxing break from this show. I needed a nice, relaxing break from life. And now I'm back. I'm not alone. We're going to be talking about a very fun topic today. I'm very excited to introduce our guests and to talk about said topic. So, today, join me to talk about our favorite romantic comedies. We have the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Screen Speck herself, Mariana Delgado. Mariana, how you doing today?
Hey Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you on here. I cannot wait to talk to you about our favorite romantic comedies. I'm so excited to be talking to you about this topic. So I like to throw a nice curveball question at the start of these podcasts. So you're obviously a film fan, or else you wouldn't have come onto this show. If you had the opportunity to craft together your own romantic comedy, who would direct it? Who would be in it? You could pick two leads. Where would it be set? And what time period would it be set in? It's a very tricky
Oh,
question, but I like to see what your answer is. I'm really curious to know what you would pick.
oh my God. Okay. You asked me this question and it's funny that I've actually thought about it, but everybody's gonna just, shit on me because it's all I talk about. But recently watching Ted Lasso. Um, so hear me out. Don't turn off the podcast yet, okay? Because I'd really, really love if we could revive Nora Ephron to direct again. I love for her to direct this particular rom-com. And yes, my two leads would be Hannah Waddingham and Jason Sudeikis. Just because don't start with me. Listen, and I've said this before, but I'd really like to see them in their own before trilogy kind of rom-com-esque slash dramedy. Um, I mean, because you gotta capitalize off that chemistry. You can't just leave it off into just like 3 seasons and call it a day, especially
I
when
know.
you can have Sudeikis without the Ted persona, romance someone like Hannah Waddingham. So yeah, that's my answer, and I won't go on because then, I'll get doxxed on the internet.
Would would you keep it set in London, or would you set it somewhere else? Would you keep it in present day? Would you set it in the past, maybe the future, perhaps? What where would this be set?
100% contemporary. Just because Jason has that kind of face that he knows what an iPad is or what a iPhone is and stuff like that. Um, and I would set it in Kansas City because that's where he's from, and I think it'd be fun to kind of do a little homage, especially because, Ted Lasso's set in London, so let's reverse it, I guess. It's not a very original answer considering my Twitter persona, but
Well, to kind of go off that and talk about, one of the best TV shows ever, I'm going to also talk about one of the best TV shows ever. Richard Linklater directing Bob Odenkirk and Rhea Seehorn.
please.
and,
Please,
and we're
I
gonna
am on my
and
knees.
we're gonna make this also like a before trilogy esque, and we're gonna set it very fittingly. Each film is gonna be set in different locations. First, we're gonna have Albuquerque,
Of course.
and then we're gonna have Florida, and then
Yes.
we're gonna have Nebraska.
Oh, I
Done.
mean, Academy Award.
Literally, let's get Bob and Rhea their Academy Awards. It's time. It's time. Let's go. Let's go.
We're going for the EGOT. I don't know how they're gonna
Literally.
win a Grammy. Maybe their own podcast. Who knows?
Oh,
But
please.
they're gonna win that Grammy.
And then they need to be in some like play or something. Put them in street. I don't know, a streetcar named Desire or something. I don't know.
Put them in the Bridges of Madison County. I don't know if Bob and Ray can sing, but I'm sure
Never,
that they
never
can do it.
underestimate them. Never underestimate them.
I could do it, even if they're off key. I'll go and watch them.
So clearly you love Ted Lasso and also Better Call Saul, just like me. So to go
Yeah.
on a little bit about yourself, talk a little bit about what got you into film. Talk a little bit about what you do over at Screen Speck and all the other things that you do. And I'm trying to think of another good question. Like, why do you love film so much? Why do you love it so much?
Oh my god. Why do I love film so much? Okay, so we have to backtrack to when I was 11 and my mom, I don't know how she'd seen Unfaithful, you know, that movie with Richard Gere and Diane Lane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why she let me watch Unfaithful when I was 11, but she did. And I guess she said something like I'm like mature for my age or something, which just turned out to be that I was, you know, heavily depressed human being later on. But I watched that film and then I kind of just started watching a couple of films, but it wasn't until I watched The Prince of Tides, directed by Barbara Streisand. I mean, this is the most incredibly random way of going into film that I then looked her up and I was like, "Oh, she's a director. She does music." And then eventually, there was a summer in when I want to say I was 13. I broke my leg playing soccer, and I spent the whole summer watching Turner Classic Movie Channel, and kinda that's what opened the door to film for me. Um, so I kinda started with old Hollywood, and then I moved my way to contemporary, and then I foolishly decided to get a master's in film studies, and then I landed in writing, and then kinda my love for film kinda transcribed itself through writing, and I wrote my thesis on The Leftovers, which is a TV show, but, I feel like without film, I wouldn't have never gotten to television in the first place. So then I started writing freelance for a couple of years, and, I decided that I wanted to create something with my friend Sydney, who's the co-founder of Screen Speck. And we just got in contact with several other incredibly talented writers and editors who are now part of our team. And we just kind of wanted to give writers another outlet that perhaps they could explore certain areas of their writing. Um, for example, one of our writers, Charmaine Tange, um, they covered Gentleman Jack, and we gave them ample room to write reviews that really spoke to them and spoke to lesbian identity and of that particular show. And they just had fun doing it, and it was a way of them coming back to writing. So that's kind of like just one example of many of why we even started Screen Spec. And basically, I mean, cinema. It all goes back to cinema. Not to sound like a stereotype, but I do love film. Film is my first love as much as I now gravitate towards television. There's something magical about film, even if my introduction to it was Richard Gere murdering Diane Lane's lover with a snow globe and then, you know, rolling his body in a carpet and then throwing him out in the trash. I can't look at carpets the same after that or snow globes. But yeah, that's pretty much I feel like I could just encapsulate it in Unfaithful, Barbara Streisand, and Old Hollywood, and that's me.
Well, we love that. We love that. I love that mix of different things. I love it so much. I like the wide range of taste. I love it so much. So now going into our topic about romantic comedies, what made you want to come on here today to talk about romantic comedies? Like, what about rom coms makes you love them so much and makes it one of your favorite genres?
The rom-com, first of all, it's a genre that was up till recently that was a little bit dried up. I feel like after Nora Ephron passed away, she kinda took the whole genre with her. Rightfully so, because she wrote some of the best and some of the most iconic rom-coms like Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, When Harry Met Sally. Um, but as for the genre itself, what I love about it is it's hopeful, especially in a time where everything is so bleak and so everybody's so angry, and rightfully so. I mean, if you look at the macro of the world and how just goddamn awful everything seems to be, we just came out of a pandemic, which we still haven't left, but we're refusing to acknowledge that. The rom-com gives us a little bit of hope, especially with my experience on film Twitter criticism. I feel like everything is so hyperly critiqued, and I'm someone that agrees. I mean, we should look at everything with a critical lens, but the rom-com just it's a softer side to cinema, and it's deceivingly, nuanced, and it's a genre that I think has gotten us all through a lot of rough patches in our lives. Like, I can remember a summer before I started high school, just rewatching You've Got Mail that week before school because I was so nervous, and just rewatching that movie gave me such a sense of peace and calm and just, like, I don't know, it's like the whole vibe of it all, which is incredibly vague, but it's like a warm hug, and it is reassuring to know, that love is out there, and we forget that as human beings, that's all we're looking for sometimes, like, just not just to romantically find a partner, but some of these films are also heavily doused in familiar love and reconnecting with our families or found families and siblings, and just that whole genre is the belief of love, which is I can't remember what cheesy movie this came from, but they said like the closest thing we have to magic is love. It's I can't remember the movie, but to me that just spoke to me, and to me that's the rom-com.
Yeah, romantic comedies, I'm very hit or miss with them nowadays, but I find one that really compels me, it like really sticks out in a great way to me. And looking back at some of the best rom-coms ever, it's like, oh yeah, that is a great rom-com. There's a lot more great rom-coms than I thought, and I agree with you. I mean, the last, I mean, how long has it been since Nora passed away? Like 10 years at this point.
Mhm.
There hasn't really been a lot of fantastic rom-coms that have come out. I mean, yeah, every once in a while we get one that really is good. But I mean, think about how many have come out these past 10 years that really are great. You can't really think of many, but what I love about what I love about comedy is that I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. I love to
Mhm.
escape. And I'm not a big romance movie guy. The romance movies that I love are like the really deep and depressing and realistic ones. I love watching those ones. I don't know what it is, even though they break me. Something about them just makes me want to watch them. Like, listen, you could love, a film like Blue Valentine, and if you want to love a film like The Notebook, be my guest. You could love anything that that man does, Nicholas
Mhm.
Sparks. But when it comes to romantic comedies, the ones that I have on here, the 5 films that I picked, they all make me laugh, like, tremendously. They're all so funny, but they're also able to balance the heartfelt moments pretty
Mhm.
greatly, and we're obviously not gonna get to my list right now. Mariana's gonna go first with her number 5, but let me just say that one of the films that I end up talking about is criminally overlooked, and a lot of people wouldn't think of it as a rom-com, but then you watch and you're like, "Oh yeah, that is a good rom-com." A lot of people put it down for no reason, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. But yeah, I'm very excited to talk about our favorite rom-coms with you. I cannot wait to see what's on your list. I'm curious to know how different your list is going to be from mine. I'm sure there's going to be at least one similarity. I mean, there has to be, I mean, there's so much to choose from, but you never know what's going to happen. So, the way this is going to work, everyone, we're going to go through our 5 through 1. Now, if Mariana has a film that's higher on my list, I'm going to say pass after she talks about it. Same goes for her. If I have a film that's higher on her list, she's going to say pass. So, Mariana, important question. What is your number 5 favorite rom com of all time?
Okay, so I am a huge fan of The Sopranos,
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely adore James Gandolfini. as Tony Soprano, which came to an absolute joy to see that one of his last films was a rom-com starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and my number 5 film is Enough Said, which is, to me, the possibility of the rom-com and what we could be doing with it now. It's a great script. It is so well acted. It has 2 HBO titans falling in love very tenderly, very sweetly, and we see James Gandolfini in his last performance as a man with insecurities. I feel like I mentioned this in a previous episode of my podcast with my co-founder Sid, because we discussed that movie. That we got to meet James. We finally got to see him. I think the way that he probably wanted most people to see him as when he met people in real life. Because he was a tall, burly man, and he played one of the most violent men on television, Tony Soprano. And you saw him fall in love, and it was sweet. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus played one of the biggest narcissists on TV, which was Selena Meyer on Veep. And you got to see these 2 actors, mesh so well together, and it's also older people falling in love, which we need to see more often, in my most humble opinion.
That's a great movie. I love that movie so much. I remember seeing it right when it came out, and it was definitely hard to watch because, you know, I think one of the biggest celebrity losses of the past 10 years is James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's so sad that when he had passed away, I hadn't watched The Sopranos at that point. I was
Mhm.
15 years old, and when I had finally watched The Sopranos like 3-4 years ago for the first time in its entirety, I'm like, this is an actor that we really lost way too soon. A tremendous talent taken from us
Mhm.
way too soon. And he is so lovely in this movie. He is so wholesome. He is so sweet and so tender. The complete opposite of Tony Soprano. I mean, you kind of saw little glimpses of that when he was Tony Soprano, like very small glimpses. But this movie, the entire time, he's just the most wholesome man, and you just want to get a hug from him. He's just so lovely, and his chemistry with Julia Louis-Dreyfus is really incredible. And every so often they like to nominate performances from rom-coms for awards. I don't know
Mhm.
how he didn't get nominated for an Academy Award for this
Oh.
performance. Like, he was so good in this film, and so was she. But I mean, like, we never really had seen him do a comedy either, because a lot of the
Mm-mm.
films that he had done were serious roles. And he didn't really have the biggest film career. Like, he never really led a film. This was really the first time and one of the few times where he was basically a lead of the movie. And
Mhm.
it's a really terrific film. It's also one of the few times, I think, ever in a movie where Toni Collette uses her natural accent, because most of the
Yes!
time you hear her very flawless American accent, but
That's an
this time
American woman.
it
That's
she
not an
she
Australian
oh
woman.
no,
She's American.
she is American. We've been lied to. She's not Australian. Like, my God.
Yeah, she's at home in her kitchen making an apple pie right now. That's how American
It,
she is.
and also, can we talk about how much of a scumbag Catherine Keener is in this? Oh my God.
My god.
Like,
She's
one of my
so good.
she's so good in this.
So good.
One of my favorite moments in the movie is when they're walking in the park and she's like, I need someone to bitch to, and she's like, you could completely bitch to me. Oh, I just love I love it so much. It's so good. This is
She's so unbearable. Like, you
she
just, like,
is.
wanna slap her. The best, white, suburban, new age mom character who's just despicable.
Oh my God. It's like it's so good. It's so good. I love that movie. That's a great movie. So, my number 5, as I hinted at, criminally overlooked, very underappreciated. You would think, with the talent involved, that this movie would be very well received. And it's not that it has terrible reviews, but when you look at this filmmaker's other films, it ranks lower for a lot of people. My number 5 from 2004, The Terminal, directed by Steven Spielberg. So, let me be very clear. This is not the best film that Spielberg has ever directed. It's not one of his best films. I will admit that. But it's one of my favorites that he's ever done. I don't get how people say Spielberg does the exact same thing all the time. They want to see him do something different. And here he is doing pretty much a romantic comedy set entirely in an airport. Tom Hanks, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Stanley Tucci, great cast, fantastic cast. And yet people just brush it off like it's a piece of trash. Well, let me tell you something right now. This is not a piece of trash. This is a great film. Yes, Tom Hanks's accent could be a little wonky. I wait in airport for a long time for Krakosia. I get it. It's a little wonky. I understand. It's weird seeing Daddy Tom doing an accent like that, but
Daddy Tom.
but
Electric chair.
yeah.
I can't. Not Daddy Tom. We're going to prison. Are we hypersexualizing Tom Hanks right now? Are we objectifying this man?
I mean,
America's sweetheart, okay?
I can't keep a straight face. Oh my god.
Okay, Daddy Tom.
Okay, America's sweetheart, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is one of the most likable actors that has ever graced the screen. He is so innocent and so sweet in this movie. He's just a man who unfortunately doesn't speak really much English. He's trying to go home, and while he's in the air flying to New York, his country's under attack and he has to just wait it out in the terminal for as long as possible. And throughout the movie, he has these encounters with Catherine Zeta-Jones, who plays Amelia. She's a flight attendant, and she talks about her struggles with how she has bad relationships with men, how she's always traveling. She talks about a lot of stuff, and Victor's like, "Oh, okay, goodbye." Like, you know, he doesn't know what to say to anything, but it's just a very wholesome movie. It's very touching. It's so lovely, and I think that adds a lot to Tom's performance. He is just so likable in this film. And John Williams' score is just so whimsical and magical, like all of his other scores. And I mean, you have to commend the team behind the film, especially the production designers. They literally built a working airport on a hangar in like LA. I mean, that's impressive if you ask me. That's really incredible work. And nobody thinks about that because for a long time, I thought they actually just shot in an actual airport. But then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, would they really close off an airport for months to shoot a movie? I don't know. Maybe they would, but they literally built a working terminal on a. I mean, that's impressive. Like, that's incredible. And I would love Steven Spielberg to do more comedies. You know, he's a guy that, you know, he does his dramas, he does his sci-fi films, he just did a musical, but I would love for him to do another comedy. He had done Catch Me If You Can right before this, and after he made Catch Me If You Can, the reason why he chose to do this as his follow-up to that was because he wanted to do another feel-good, wholesome movie before then tackling Munich, which is not a feel-good movie whatsoever.
What do you mean that's my rom-com? That's my number 4. How dare you come for Munich like that?
Okay, Munich is the happiest movie ever made.
Next to The Departed.
Next to
Okay,
The Departed.
so
Actually, no. Saving Private Ryan is the best rom-com of all time.
actually, Michael Haneke's Funny Games and Amour are both a comedy and the best rom-com. So he's the most sadistic director ever.
Where are we going with this?
You go. You were talking about Catch Me If You Can and like Spielberg wanting to do some feel good before he did Munich.
Yeah, so he wanted to do a feel good movie, and he did that with this, and it really is an underappreciated film from him. And Catherine Zeta-Jones looks as elegant as she ever has. Like, she always looks stunning, still does to this day. It's incredible. And Stanley Tucci is a great, slimy, despicable, villainous role with his shiny bald
Villain.
head, and he constantly scratches his eyes and takes off his glasses to polish them and everything. It's a thing that I didn't notice until very recently. As someone who's watched this movie many times, it's just so apparent. It's like, oh, he looked like he had the time of his life making this movie. He kind of looked like my father. So, I mean,
Oh my
I,
god.
I mean, I guess I
There's
had
a
to
lot to
acknowledge that.
unpack here.
There really is. Like, I never thought that I would gush this much about the terminal, but in the weirdest possible ways. And I'm really glad that I got a chance to talk about it. It's just a really sweet movie. It's very wholesome. And again, if Spielberg ever wants to tackle romantic comedies again, he absolutely 100% should. But I get that right now he's at the age where he wants to do films that are very different for him. I mean, like we just said, he just did West Side Story. He had never done a musical before. Now he's doing a movie about his childhood, and he's done coming of age before. But this is probably going to be the first like full on straight up coming of age film that he's ever directed, which is really exciting for me. And I would love for him to do another feel good wholesome movie that doesn't really feel baity, because this isn't really a baity movie by any means. Because now when you look at Spielberg's movies, you're like, oh, this is Oscar bait. It's really good, but it's Oscar bait. This is not Oscar bait at all. This just feels like the kind of romantic comedy that you would get throughout the early to mid 2000s, and we don't get these kinds of romantic comedies anymore. It's very
Mm-mm.
fun, it's entertaining, it's heartfelt, it is emotional when it has to be, especially when you hear about why Tom's character Victor is coming to New York, what he's doing. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it is a very emotional moment to the film. It honestly gets me every single time because of how Tom just delivers it. He's just one of those actors that when he cries, you cry with him. There's this beautiful shot when he first finds out about his country being under attack, and it's just a close up on his face, and the doors like slide, like they close on him as he's crying. His eyes are so watery. He has his hand over his mouth and he's sniffling, and it's one of the most heartbreaking shots that I've ever seen in my life on a film. And then 2 seconds later, I'm laughing at what's going on. Like, that's just the power of this movie, of how it's able to balance comedy and drama so beautifully. And the romance here, I mean, it's not the main crux of the film, but when you look this up, it is kind of considered the romantic comedy. And I'm really glad it is. And I'm glad that I got to talk about it today. So I don't think this is on your list. So do you have any opinions on the terminal?
I mean, first of all, the power of Daddy Tom Hanks. I mean, truly setting the world on fire. Also, I love your implication that bald people are evil. So if you're listening to this and you're bald, Bryan thinks you're evil and you're hiding something,
Well, not
okay? And you're slimy.
father. Please don't listen to this podcast.
Father, not daddy. Anyways, shouldn't have asked me to come on to your podcast. Listen, the terminal is so good that now I haven't rewatched it in a very long time, that after we hang up, I'm gonna rewatch the terminal because I do love the romance in this movie, and I know it's underscored, but also the just Stanley Tucci and Tom Hanks dynamic in this movie, romance of the ages.
Oh, it's
Romance
incredible.
of enemies to lovers kind of romance.
Incredible.
I
Incredible.
mean, talk about a Ted Lasso before Ted Lasso was a thing. I think this character was the very first kill him with kindness kind of character. I just,
He was the Rebecca before Rebecca came into the picture.
you know what? I come on your podcast and I bring some intellect and analytical discourse. This is how I'm treated. Absolute hate crime. But no, yeah, I I love the terminal and its simplicity. I know a lot of people have an issue with the more cultural significance of having, an American actor play an immigrant, but I feel like if anyone could pull it off and did pull it off, it'd be Tom Hanks. And I do love this movie. It is one of those feel good movies, and it's just, I love airports because they are this kind of like, they're this medium, or they're this this purgatory where everybody from around the world, for one moment, they cross, you know? So I love that kind of idea of serendipity and, like, you know, it's a good movie. It's all I have left to say about The Terminal. Go and watch it.
Yes, please go watch it. Seriously, I mean, if anyone out there listening is a big fan of Spielberg and Tom Hanks, I mean, you really should do yourself a favor and check this out. Again, like I said, it's not one of Spielberg's best movies, but I really think that it's just such a different film for him to tackle that it's really cool that he got to make this film. And again, I would love
Mm.
for him to do more films like this. So now going into our number fours, what is your pick?
My number 4 pick is a fan favorite. It has one of my favorite rom-com leads, female characters, not female characters, female actress to portray rom-coms. And everything about this film I love, and I think it speaks to the contemporary rom-com along with keeping with the more early 2000s, and it has to be The Proposal with Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds. Um, I adore this movie because it is genuinely one of those laugh out loud kind of rom-coms, but at the same time, Sandra and Ryan have so much chemistry. It's very palpable, and whenever they do have those, like, romantic moments, because it's very much when you date your boss, we're not gonna discuss the other implications of that, but, um, when you fall in love with your boss, you know? Um, I what I love about this movie is, first of all, Sandra Bullock is such a dynamic actress, and I love that she has, like, this Tig Notaro kind of comedic timing where she's very deadpan, and she does that a lot in this movie that I absolutely adore, and playing that off with Ryan Reynolds, like, you can almost see a little bit of his Deadpool character. I know a lot of people say Ryan Reynolds plays the same character in every movie, but he's really great in this movie, and I just think it shows that he should go back to doing rom-coms, and also Betty White in this movie. One of my
Yes.
favorite scenes is the one in the forest where she Betty White, for some reason, is dressed in indigenous clothing. I admit there's a lot of problematic parts to this movie, but, the history of the rom-com is not exactly, innocent. Um, so she's in the forest and she's chanting to the gods. Sandra Bullock walks in and basically tells Sandra's character to, like, chant with her, and she starts singing, how does it go? Uh, don't what's I can't
I
remember
don't remember.
it's a very famous, R&B song, you scare, drop it to the floor, okay, to the window, to the wall, that's the song. And then Ryan Reynolds' character walks up to her, and then he's like, "You're a freak." And it's moments like that where you have the very funny comedic timing of these 2 characters, but also, like, how much I just love it because he finally sees her, not the persona she's putting up as a front at work, and he just sees her for who she is, and he just starts, he's like, "Oh, I'm in love with this person," and he falls very quickly, and I think that the idea that he'd already, it might be a little bit of a Stockholm syndrome because she was so mean to him all the time, and basically, um, blackmailed him into marrying her for the visa. But, aside from that, it's a very lovely film. It's actually incredibly funny. It has some of my favorite, scenes of a comedy, period. And then just, it's a very great film. It's like the typical rom-com, and I think we should go back to our roots, man. We need to go back to the rom-com, and if we wanna make a commercial, we saw with this new movie Sandra did, people will go and see Sandra Bullock in a rom-com again, and we need to bring that back. and that's my piece.
Yeah, Sandy B is one of those people that whenever she's in a rom-com, I mean, people just go out of their way to go see it. Even if it doesn't get the best reception critically, like people will go out and support her. Like I remember when The Lost City came out earlier this year, and yeah, it wasn't like a big critical darling, but it did pretty
Mm-mm.
well financially. Like people still want to go out. And I mean, it's not obviously her being the only attraction to the film. Obviously, there are people that are going to watch for Chan Tatum, but Sandra Bullock was the lead of the movie, and that's just saying a lot. Yeah, The Proposal is a pretty funny movie. It's not one of those films that I've watched countless amount of times. Like my sister is obsessed with The Proposal. She loves that movie so much. My parents think it is hilarious, and it is really funny. It's very funny, but it's not one that I've seen enough to where I could say like I'm a massive fan of it, but it is a really funny movie. And sometimes when it comes to movies that like the mainstream audience loves, but like maybe us movie fans aren't as enthused about it as the common like audience member, I could be hit or miss with it. But this movie is pretty funny. And yeah, we just don't get rom-coms like this anymore. This was 2009. So really in the last 13
Well,
years, I mean, I can't think of a studio comedy that has been on the same level, studio rom-com that has been on the same level of popularity as this. I mean, there's really just one that I could think of, one that unfortunately did not make my list, but um I really think that this is a very entertaining movie. If you guys love Sandy B, watch it for her. She's great. She always crushes it. I love watching her in anything that she's in. I like that she's one of those performers that has practically done everything. Like she's done comedies, she's done dramas, she's done thrillers, she's done action movies. Like
she's done horror.
she's done horror, she's done pretty much everything that she could possibly do. And she keeps on going, and she still looks incredible. She still looks great. And Ryan Reynolds, my liking towards him has definitely decreased because he kind of plays the same character now. But in this film, he adds that charm that you like about Ryan Reynolds, and it works. And yeah, they're just so great together. And Betty White, I mean, my God, Queen, rest in peace. Like she stole the movie. She was unbelievable. She was incredible. Like, oh my God, so fun. So now my number 4, I'm gonna go. This is really tough because this is yet another film that critically is not the best received, but audience members, they will eat this movie up. It is a film they watch every single Christmas, possibly every single Valentine's Day too. On number 4, from one of the queens of rom-coms herself, Nancy Meyers, The Holiday.
Ah,
The Holiday from 2006.
how dare you?
You'll say your thoughts for when it's your turn to talk. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. Okay, so Nancy Meyers is one of those filmmakers that is a staple to this genre. Like practically she is one of the modern rom-com filmmakers we have working today. We have this, Something's Gotta Give, It's Complicated, The Intern. What's the name of the one that she did with Mel Gibson? What's that one? What Men Want? Or is that What Women Want? I forgot what it was called.
Oh, what women want, yeah.
What Women Want. And would you consider The Parent Trap a rom-com or no?
Hell yeah.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Hell yeah. I just wanted to make sure you agreed with me on that. She is literally a queen
Hell
of
yeah.
romantic comedies. Nancy Meyers is just loved by so many people, but The Holiday, I'm shocked, honestly, that this may be my favorite thing that she's ever directed. And I love The Parent Trap. I will eat that. That movie is incredible. I will gush about it till the day I die. Meredith Blake is one of the best Disney villains ever. I don't care what anyone says. She is literally a top tier villain of Disney. So you can't change my opinion otherwise. But let's talk about The Holiday. So You had probably maybe the go-to person for rom-coms at that time, Cameron Diaz, starring in it. And then you had someone who kind of hadn't really done a lot of comedies, but quite a bit of romances in Kate Winslet. Cameron Diaz lives in California. She is a movie trailer editor, which I think is a really fucking dope job. I think that's an awesome fucking job. And then Kate Winslet is a journalist. And they're both just going through traumatic experiences when it comes to love. And Christmas time is coming. And they decide to swap houses for 2 weeks during the holiday. Kate Winslet goes to California. Cameron Diaz comes to London. In London, Cameron Diaz starts falling for the beautiful Jude Law, who plays Kate Winslet's brother, Graham. Good old Graham, so gorgeous. And then Kate befriends probably one of the nicest kindest men ever, Jack Black. And this movie, I think, works so well because of these four actors. All of them are perfect for their roles, like tailor-made perfect for their roles. And I think all of them work off each other terrifically. I never thought that Kate Winslet and Jack Black would be a pairing that I would want in cinema, but they work off each other so beautifully. And Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, I mean, they're both breathtakingly gorgeous. I mean, Jude Law especially. Good God. Jude Law in the early 2000s, delicious.
Talk about daddy, okay? Talk
Now,
about
yes,
Daddy Jude Law.
Daddy Jude Law, Daddy J Law. Oh, just no, I think what makes this film work is the chemistry between these guys. And one thing that makes a rom-com good is when the banter between the lead or the leads, they all work very well. And I mean, Nancy Meyers is no stranger to great parents in her films. I mean, you look at Something's Gotta Give and Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton. I mean, that's a perfect pairing. You look at this film and these guys are perfect parents. You look at It's Complicated and the three of them, Street, Baldwin, and Martin, they work off each other terrifically. And then even though in The Intern they're not romantically affiliated with one another, the dynamic between De Niro and Anne Hathaway is like pitch perfect. It's incredible. And yeah, I just love this movie so much. It's that kind of movie that I watch every single Christmas and never feel ashamed of it. I watch it sometimes on Valentine's Day. I watch it. Honestly, it's one of those romances you can watch any time of the year. Like, I know some people have a thing where they're like, I can't watch a Christmas movie in July, or I can't watch a Christmas movie in October. Listen, I can watch a Christmas movie any time of the year. No one makes the rules for me. I can watch a movie whenever I want to. I don't care. If I want to watch the holiday in March on St. Patrick's Day, then so be it. I will do that. But I love this movie so much. Everyone works off each other so well. And I love, as a film fan, how Jack Black, being the guy that, composes films, there's these great conversations with him and Kate Winslet just talking about cinema music, and it's awesome. And one of my favorite sequences in the movies when they go to Blockbuster to just pick out movies, and Jack Black's he grabs like the Chariot of Fire DVDs, like it's so good. Then Dustin Hoffman randomly pops out of nowhere. It's so good because I think he brings up The Graduate, and Dustin Hoffman just happens to appear, and that's hilarious. That's great. Yeah, like dee 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 dee, and like he starts humming Mrs. Robinson, and it's just, oh my god, it's so good. And then there's the sequence where they're back at the house, and he starts playing music on the piano, and he plays the Indiana Jones theme, and I'm like, like Jack Black is mirroring some of his School of Rock persona into this role, and I just love it so much. I really gush about this movie probably way more than I ever thought I would. Everyone's great. Nancy Meyers is a queen. She's so good at what she does. The Holiday, maybe not the best film that Nancy Meyers has done, but it's probably my favorite that she's done, and it's my number 4. So, where do you stand on The Holiday? Is it something you're going to pass on, or is it not on your list?
It's not on my list, but now I'm sad that it's not, because it's It's hard. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, I just I fell in love with Jude Law's character in this movie.
I mean, how could you
There's
not?
just
I mean, how
something.
can you not?
How
Like
can you? I mean,
one of the best
he's
single,
so sexy.
one of the he is so hot. One of the best single dads I think I've ever seen on screen.
Like, please kill me, choke me out, because he was also like just his mannerisms in this movie and the way that he was so soulful at being some male actors just don't know how to be in love in a movie. Jude Law is not one of those actors because he just I mean if I sit here all day all I'm going to talk about is how beautiful Jude Law play that character in The Holiday and Cameron D. Let me just say, I know Jason Sudeikis all he watches is rom-coms because some of the themes that I see being utilized and plagiarized. But no. I mean, what else can I say about The Holiday except it's a great film. My mom and we've rewatched it too many times. And I especially love the Sylvia Plath reference where Kate Winslet's character almost tries to kill herself via her oven because her boyfriend like announces engagement in front of everybody they work for, and everybody they work for knew that they went out. That was a great
Oh
moment,
my
and I
god, the sad
love
music.
her. I love Kate Winslet.
What am I doing?
I love her. She's like trying to inhale like -10-degree weather, and she's just
What am I
great in this
doing?
movie.
Oh my god, she needs to talk about someone that needs to do more comedy. Like she is so fucking funny in
Yes,
this. She is really good with comedy. I mean, she showed that in
she's
Eternal
so
Sunshine,
good.
but like this, I mean, this was on a whole other level.
Kate Winslet, if you're listening to this by any chance, do more rom-coms, I'm begging you. I
Please
don't know who you have to bribe to get a good script these days for a rom-com, but do it. Oh my god. But
listen,
yeah,
push it. Listen, push aside Mayor of Easttown season 2, which should not happen, and do another rom com. Just
just, get that Ouija board and contact Nora Ephron. I know you can do it, girl.
yeah, you have all the power in the world, girl. You have like an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Grammy. You're almost at the EGOT status. Like, come on, let's go.
She's
Let's go.
she's coming for it.
Let's
Oh,
go.
she's taking it.
So now number
Yeah, that.
three. Number three. What is your pick?
Okay. Okay, so I have to look up the director. This is probably a film that not a lot of people watched and not a lot of people, I don't think they even know that it came out, and it's such a shame because it's probably one of I mean, it is my top 3. But in between doing Bates Motel, Vera Farmiga did a film called At Middleton with Andy Garcia, and it was directed by Adam Rogers, right? This film combines every single thing I love about the rom-com, especially because the leads are 2 middle-aged characters who go to a college tour with their kids, and which also Vera's younger sister, Thaisa Farmiga, plays her daughter in the film. Um, and Andy Garcia and Vera's character, they're both married, but they in the course of the day they basically fall in love and they do this sweet little dance around each other, and it's so short and it's so sweet, and it's a film about ships in the night, which I eat it up, I just eat it up like a good cake or something. But Vera Farmiga to me is one of the best contemporary actresses of her time. Unfortunately, she doesn't get to I mean, you'd think after her nomination on The Departed, she would get more not The Departed,
Up in the air.
Up in the Air. I was about to say the George Clooney airplane movie, but then there were
Yeah,
gonna be
don't offend me, please. That's one of the best movies of all time.
Okay, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Listen, that could be a rom-com. It's probably in your tops. You never know.
We'll see.
Uh, but she's so good in this small indie film rom-com. And she has great chemistry with Andy Garcia. And talk about another sexy man, Andy Garcia, who is my Cuban daddy. Wait, you know what I mean.
I know what
Um,
you mean. I know what you mean.
Andy Garcia is just so hot. Like, I'm so sorry to all the other men in Hollywood, but you can't manufacture the kind of charisma and sensuality that Andy Garcia has, especially in this film, considering that he plays his uptight dad and she plays the more like carefree, whimsical, like, oh, yeah, let's steal these bikes from the campus lounge. Like, why wouldn't we? And he has like a bow tie on, but by the end of the film, they both literally, like, unravel and they can't be together. They literally just met, they're both married. And there's a scene within a scene in the film where they happen because they run off from the tour, they leave their kids on their own because they're both being incredibly obnoxious, but, teens. And they run into this drama class, and the teacher sees them and then says, "Why don't you guys come down into the class and join us?" And they join the drama class, and then they have to act out a improv divorce scene of a couple. And Andy and Vera are just so good. Just so incredible. It's a great scene. I highly recommend this film just for that scene alone. Um Also, it's bittersweet, which somehow is always the case with older couples in rom-coms or in, romance narratives in general, but this one felt so earned because you weren't being fooled, um, into believing that they would end up together because you go in knowing full well that they're both married and they're both there with their kids, to check out this university. Um, and yeah, at Middleton is again just one of the hidden gems of movies in the rom-com genre, and Andy Garcia is quintessentially a rom-com lead in every way. And Vera Farmiga is just, I mean, she's just amazing, and I wish she should come back to the drama prestige. I know she's doing this new series on Apple. I haven't seen it yet, but I will. But I want her again to lead a series. And yeah, At Middleton is great. You guys should watch it.
Yeah, that one's been on my list for quite some time. I will watch anything that she's in. I'm a massive fan of Vera Farmiga. I love her so much. And Andy Garcia, I mean, he is great. He is awesome to watch. Another recent romance movie that he did was Father of the Bride, which I haven't watched yet. I haven't watched it, and I heard it was pretty good, and I would definitely check it out mainly for him. But yeah, it sounds like a really great film. It sounds like someone that's definitely up my alley. And I agree with you. Vera Farmiga, I would love for her to lead another drama series because her work on Bates Motel is fucking incredible. Incredible.
Mhm.
Like how she did not win any awards for that is actually really criminal to me. Like that was a really good show, way better than it ever should have
Yeah.
been, and mainly because of her
Yes.
and mainly because of her and Freddie. I mean,
Yeah.
they both carried that show on their shoulders, and it just got so much better. And in my opinion, it ended on a very satisfying note. But yeah, I love Vera Farmiga, and I will definitely check this film out because of your recommendation. So I will definitely put this film on my watch list, a lot higher than it should be. So my number three, one thing that I have to say about films in general, and really about a lot of romantic comedies, is how they're marketed. Most of the time, when you watch trailers from rom coms, you pretty much give away everything, and you pretty much know what you're gonna get. You think you have an idea of where it's gonna go. And because you think you have an idea where it's going to go, you walk in expecting to be disappointed. Well, that's how I was when I walked into a certain movie. I'm going to build up to it. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie over and over and over again. And I'm like, wow, this looks like shit. This looks so generic. I don't want to see this, even though I like everybody involved in the movie. I love this entire cast. Okay, sure, I'll go watch it. It was a summer day. It was the summer morning. I went to the cinema with my sister and my dad, and we went to go see this movie. And when the movie ended, I said to myself, that was one of the biggest surprises I have ever seen in my life. Number 3, 2011, Crazy Stupid Love. I will say that to me, it just looked like a generic rom-com. It didn't look like it was going to be anything different, even though the talent in front of the camera is great. Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Julianne Moore, Kevin Bacon, Marissa Tomei, fantastic cast. Like, all those actors are great. I love each and every one of them. And I mean, how could you not? But what surprised me about the movie, and again, not spoiling anything, but as the movie progresses and you understand more about these characters, and then the stories come together, and you're like, I did not see this coming. I did not expect this at all. And that to me was brilliant. Deep down, I'm like, these trailers were terrible. But I have to give a major round of applause to the people that were in charge of marketing this movie, because they did a great job of subverting expectations for everybody that watched this movie. If anyone out there listening right now said that they knew exactly where this movie was going to go, you are absolutely lying to yourself, because I guarantee you that nobody anticipated one story being tied with other story the way it was. And I thought it was a very clever romantic comedy. It's so fucking funny, this movie. Ryan Gosling is incredible in this. This was the first time where audiences got to see his comedic chops, and they are really impressive. He is so funny in this movie. It is insane how he hasn't done as many comedies as he should, because I will tell you that when he does comedy, he knocks it out of the park. The Nice Guys, which is unfortunately not a rom-com, because if it was, I would put it on the list.
To me, it is. To you, it might not be.
Okay,
how dare you?
Okay, it's a rom-com to some extent, but but in that movie, he shows his comedic chops, and they're brilliant. I mean, you want to talk about a comedic performance that should have been nominated for an Academy Award? That should have been nominated for an Academy Award. I'm sorry. Listen, La La Land is a masterpiece. That's a great movie, but let's be honest. Take out Ryan Gosling for Best Actor from that and replace him with The Nice Guys. Listen, I love La La Land. It's a great film. He's great. You don't love it?
I'll get roasted, but I don't love La La Land.
That's okay. I respect you. It's okay. It's totally fine. But, and I'm just hoping that when Barbie comes out, he showcases those comedic chops once again. And I have a feeling that he's going to. I have that feeling that that's going to happen. But no, the dynamic between him and Steve Carell is incredible. They're so great together. And then the supporting cast knocks out the park. Emma Stone is fantastic. Julianne Moore is fantastic. The man himself, Kevin Bacon, the Baconator. He steals the show. And then Marissa Tomei. Oh my God. She is nuts in this movie. And I will tell you that this was the first time I had ever seen her in anything when this movie came out. So many years later, when I watched My Cousin Vinny, and I'm like, why is that woman familiar? Oh my God, it's the psycho teacher from Crazy Stupid Love. Wow. So much range. I love it so much.
I have a theory that her character in Crazy Stupid Love is just the same character in What Women Want, because it's the same character.
Oh my God, 100%.
Same person.
100%. 100%. She couldn't get over the fact that Mel Gibson didn't want her. And then she's like, all right, let me go after Steve Carell. Let's see what happens. Steve doesn't want me either. What the fuck?
I am Marissa fucking Tomei. What is this?
So, like, literally, I bet you in 2 years there's going to be another romantic comedy that comes out where she's just playing the same character again.
And she's the lead this time.
And it's the completion of a trilogy.
Yeah, her before trilogy.
Exactly. and then Mel Gibson and Steve Carell come back.
Oh my god.
It'll be like the third Bridget Jones movie where it was Colin Firth and Patrick Dempsey. It'll be just like
Okay,
that.
but that was quality filmmaking, but yes.
It will be exactly like that in a cool way as well. But no, Crazy Stupid Love is just one of those films that really understands what it is, and it does take itself seriously, but it finds a way of still being very entertaining. And again, it's one of those films to where a lot of rom-coms, it balances the humor and heart really well. And I think the last 25 30 minutes are incredible. I think they are fantastic. The final act of this movie is really really excellent because of the way that the actors get showcase their performances in the writing and directing. And I think for me, a sequence that really gets to me, like truly gets to me in terms of the seriousness, there's a sequence in a bar. It's the last sequence we see at the bar where this whole thing pretty much started. Steve Carell's just sitting at the bar. Ryan Gosling comes up to him, and Steve Carell just has this really emotional monologue about how he pretty much just lost everything, and how this one person, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, his kid like means the world, and he's not ready to let her go to Ryan Gosling. And he's like, I've seen who you are, and I'm glad you've changed. I'm really happy for you, but you're never going to get my approval. And that's some of the finest acting that Steve Carell has ever done. I think Steve Carell has proven himself to be a really incredible dramatic actor. And again, their banter with one another is fantastic. The whole sequence where they're going shopping is just one of the funniest sequences ever. Grabs the shoes and just throws them. Are you insane? You could have hit somebody. Like, oh my god, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And the guy that wrote this, Dan Fogelman, he created one of my favorite shows of all time, This Is Us. And these two directors have worked with that guy, directing episodes of This Is Us. And, you know, like, this to me was like, to really think about it, I think this might be one of the last great studio rom-coms that we've gotten in the last 10 to 15 years, because this was the same year that Bridesmaids came out. So we had two really
Yeah.
great rom-coms that came out that same summer, and two rom-coms that you were under the impression of going in expecting to be like, oh, this is going to be so cliche, it's going to be so generic. And obviously there's the rom-com isms throughout this movie, of course, because that's what it is. It's a rom-com, but it's a lot deeper than that. It works really well because of how it's written. And
Yeah.
kudos to everybody involved in this movie. It is so great. The whole sequence where they're fighting in the backyard is fantastic. I never thought that I would see Steve Carell versus Ryan Gosling versus John Michael Higgins versus wait, no, that's not his name. John Carroll Lynch versus Kevin Bacon. I love it. I love it. And it's so weird seeing John Carroll Lynch in this, because the entire time I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my god, it's the Zodiac killer from Zodiac. I just can't picture him in anything else but that. But yeah, I love Crazy Stupid Love. Fantastic movie. Everybody's great. Gosling was unbelievable. Though, and then it cuts to him in the when he's in the locker room and he's naked. Then it just jump cuts to him in um the spa or whatever,
Oh
and
my
then
god.
Steve Carell just falls asleep.
It's a great
Perfect. Just
movie.
it's so good. It's so good. So, what are your thoughts on Crazy Stupid Love?
I mean, I love second chance romance. Um, and I love Julianne Moore. But like you said, Ryan Gosling in this movie, it was like a prelude to The Nice Guys, because he can do comedy and really, really well. Surprisingly really well, but it shouldn't be surprising because, we are judging him based on how hot he is. But Crazy Stupid Love was like watching, when atoms are shot through that machine and they're just bouncing all over the place?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in love with somebody, but not the person that they wanted that love back, and it was a great, like, camp no, I wouldn't say camp, but I would say, like, old school, old Hollywood kinda comedies, especially in those scenes that you mentioned, where you have the big fight, the big reveal. It's like, "Wait a minute, you're in love with who and not this?" And I think the funniest thing was the teen girl that harbored this huge crush on Steve Carell's
Uh-huh.
character, and Steve Carell's like, "Wait a minute, what? No." Because I don't know, like, it is very, like it's a rite of passage for when you're young, you have these crushes on older people, but you wouldn't think it'd be Steve Carell. And let me tell you something, Steve Carell, he can kinda get it, especially recently. Um, but
Oh
those
yeah,
are usually
the gray hair and the glasses. Yeah, it's a good look for him.
I mean, those are my favorite kind of male leads anyways in rom-coms. It's the unsuspecting attractive, he's just some dude, but that some dude is kinda hot. Um, but yeah, I love Crazy Stupid Love too. It's a good movie.
It's so good. And I'm so glad you brought up Julianne Moore because her delivery of this particular line makes me laugh every single time, and it's brilliant. They're outside the school. He's like, I had sex with 9 different women. She's like, 9? 9? Wow. Oh, it's brilliant. And the opening sequence where he jumps out of the car. Listen, this movie did it first. You could say that Lady Bird is the best usage of someone jumping out of a moving car, but this is he's so stoic the whole time. He's like, if you keep talking, I'm gonna get out of the car. Okay. It's incredible. It's so good. It's a
Steve
great way to open up
Carell.
this movie.
Steve Carell, the original Lady Bird.
The original Lady Bird. Yes. Let's make that into a bumper sticker. Steve Carell is the original Lady Bird. There we go.
The original.
Oh my god, it's so good. So now we get into our top 2. I have no idea what you're gonna put on your list. I have no idea what path you're gonna go towards. So, what is your second favorite rom com of all time?
I think it's incredibly ironic because this particular film, it came out, I wanna say 2008, um, and the lead is Steve Carell. Um who stars opposite Juliette Binoche, who is one of France and probably the US's, like, titan of cinema.
100%.
She is one of to my she's one of my favorite actresses. To me, there's no one above her except, I don't know, probably Viola Davis. Um, but to me, Juliette Binoche is like you think Academy Awards. I don't put too much stock in awards, but, like,
Mhm.
I think of her and I think of awards, I think of high caliber films. I don't know, also she's just stunning. She's just to me,
She is. She really
she's
is.
beautiful. And she stars in this little rom-com with Steve Carell called Dan in Real Life. And it's about a widowed dad of 3 young girls who are all unbelievably obnoxious in this movie. For some reason, I could not stand the girls. 'Cause it's like their mom passes away from of cancer, and they just give this poor dad such a hard time, and he's already going through it. But anyways, that's not the point. Um, Steve Carell in this film with Julia Binoche, they have such great chemistry, which is the most unbelievable thing I could have possibly said ever in my life. Steve Carell and Julia Binoche having chemistry. Who would have thunk? But that just reinforces my point that we need more chemistry reads because they had a chemistry read, and also Dane Cook is in this movie, and he plays Julia Binoche's boyfriend in the movie, but they Steve Carell's character with Julia Binoche have this serendipitous moment where they meet at a bookstore before Steve Carell goes in back to his parents' house because 'cause they're having a family reunion, and he meets this woman, and he just, like they just start talking, um, and they hit it off, and then he finds out that it's his brother's girlfriend, and then, typical rom-com ensues, and they just keep falling more in love with each other, especially because she gets so attached with his girls. But there was something so earnest. It was kinda like seeing, James Gandolfini in Enough Said, that we see, Steve Carell right off finishing The Office, I believe. I believe that's when he was finishing The Office. And we saw him as Michael in The Office, and we see him in this role. And he was just so earnest and so unbelievably awkward, and just he was a widowed father, and he felt so deeply in love and so fast for this woman. I mean, who wouldn't? It's Juliette Binoche, but um just to see those kind of changes in actors, when actors are allowed to do something different, it was just great to see that. And with the most like unbelievable person you wouldn't even think it'd be. And yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I sorry. Pepe. Pepe. Sorry. He's just Pepe. Sorry. Hold on, let me let him out. Hold on. Like a good millennial, I still live at home. But that is my dog. Anyways, Dan in Real Life. Um, it's a great little film. It's kind of like at Middleton where nobody probably watched it, but if you want to see Steve Carell and Juliette Binoche really hit it off and really have the sweetest little romance where you happen to meet the right person at the wrong time, but it's a good ending. I have to say it because I don't want people to not watch it because they think it's a bad ending. But yeah, Dan in Real Life. That's my number 2. I probably rewatch it every fall. It's a fall movie, and it's about second chances. It's about grief. It's about, I mean, it's about seeing this widowed dad just after losing his wife, just fall in love again and kind of lose that fear of losing someone. It's a great film. It was a great script as well. So I highly recommend Dan in Real Life.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch Dan in Real Life. I definitely have to check that out because of Steve and Juliet. I mean, like, that's a parent that I never thought that would ever exist. And, Steve Carell is one of those actors that, you never expect him to have these kinds of parents with these actors.
Mm-mm.
And yet he does. And when he does, he just works off them so well. I mean, I bet you people that watched him the entire time live when he was on The Office, they didn't expect him to star in a movie with Juliette Binoche or a movie with Julianne Moore or a movie
Mm-mm.
with
Channing
Bryan
Tatum.
Cranston and Channing Tatum, Mark Ruffalo, and then Bryan Cranston and Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, and now he's doing this thriller series with Domhnall Gleeson, which, by the way, looks really, really good. I'm so excited to see that. But yeah, I definitely have to check out Dan in Real Life. When you were describing the premise, I'm like, wow, so this sounds like the much better version of Despicable Me without the minions.
You know what? Go get I know this is your podcast and this is your home, but get out of here.
Hey, I like Despicable Me. I like the first one.
I do like the first one, and I like the Kristen Wiig character.
Oh, I love the Kristen Wiig character. I love that. No,
She's
I was just
so
no,
good.
I was just saying that because you brought up how he's a father to 3 girls.
Yeah.
They did Despicable Me. He's adopting these 3 girls and everything. These little girls, and that's what he's. That's what it's. But I definitely want to check out Dan in Real Life. I definitely 100% want to check that out. So my number 2. I feel like when you'd ask someone on the street what their favorite romantic comedy of all time is, it's this one. When people talk about romantic comedies, I don't think there's one that is discussed way more than When Harry Met Sally.
Mhm.
That's my number 2. Directed by Rob Reiner, written by the very brilliant Nora Ephron, and starring, in my opinion, one of, if not my new favorite romantic comedy duo, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. So it's so sad for me to admit that I had not seen this movie in its entirety for the first time until 24 hours ago. I had pushed off this movie for years, not because I didn't want to watch it because it was a rom-com. It had nothing to do with the talent involved. I love all four of the people that I just brought up. I think Rob Reiner is a very underrated filmmaker. Yeah, he's directed a lot of acclaimed and notable films, but when people talk about top tier filmmakers, he doesn't really get talked about as much, which is really sad. Nora Ephron, obviously pioneer of the romantic comedies. Billy Crystal, comedic genius. Meg Ryan, a dynamic talent from the 80s and 90s. And this movie, I was so surprised by how much it made me laugh. And it answers a very important question that I think everybody asks themselves. I'm sure you've asked yourself this. I've definitely asked myself this. Can men and women be friends and nothing more and nothing less? And throughout this movie, that's pretty much the common thing. Harry and Sally first meet on a cross-country trip from Chicago to New York. And then it bounces throughout the years. There are chance encounters. When they first meet up again, they don't want anything to do with each other. And then you see them many years later to where they both have grown up. They both have been in relationships. And then this lovely friendship starts. They learn pretty much everything about each other. They know what everyone loves, and they know like their quirks, their traits, and pretty much everything about them. And at a certain point in the movie, it escalates into more questions to where, should I be with Harry? Should I be with Sally? Like, it's a question that I've pondered throughout a lot of my life, to where a girl that I've been very close friends with for many years, do I want more than just friends, or do I just want to be friends? It's a question that a lot of us ask ourselves to this day. Like, everybody has asked themselves that question at some point in their life. Could I be more than friends with this guy or this girl? And this movie showcases that really beautifully. The writing in this film is so freaking good. The script is incredible. It was nominated for an Academy Award. It was nominated for a WGA. It won a BAFTA award. When you hear that a film like this got nominated for its screenplay, and then you realize, oh my God, films like this don't get nominated anymore, not even for the screenplays, it's really disappointing, because there are so many comedies out there that are worthy of getting nominated for an Oscars, whether it's for its writing or the film itself or for the performances. And this is no exception. This is a brilliant film. Rob Reiner, I think, was the perfect person to bring this story to life. He just, the charm is just so, it's just such a wholesome movie, and it's so charming and it's so likable, and you just love following Harry and Sally. And Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan are incredible together and separately. They are so great in this film. Billy Crystal looks very handsome, in my opinion. Meg Ryan, she looks stunning, especially when she has those glasses. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, literally, when it jumped and it was her and Carrie Fisher in the bookstore and she had her glasses on, my heart just like, it jumped, because I'm like, okay, this is now top 3 crushes of all time for me on film. She is so beautiful in this film. She is so gorgeous, and she's so lovely, and she's so vibrant, and their relationship is so great. It's so good. It's so good, and I'm so angry at myself for not having seen this movie until yesterday at the time of this recording, because it's a celebrated romantic comedy. This is definitely the rom-com that a lot of people think about when writing a rom-com. And if you've out there have written the rom-com and you don't think about this movie, and you're crazy, because this is such an inspiration for a plethora of the romantic comedies that have come out since this movie came out over 30 years ago. The ending got me. I had happy tears. I just loved it so much, and I love it. I love this movie so much. And right now, having only seen it just once in its entirety, I believe that on viewing number 2, whenever that happens, this will go up from a 4.5 to a 5-star for me. I just think that this movie is absolutely exceptional. And this is the kind of rom-com that I love to see. And I just don't think the pairing of these two, like if you're talking about a straight up duo, I just don't think it gets better than Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. Like they're just so perfect together. And I mean, they're so great comedically, you know. Uh, oh my god. They're great. They're just so good. It's so good. I love this movie so much. And Harry Met Sally is my number two. So where do you stand on When Harry Met Sally, which is probably considered maybe one of, if not the most talked about popular romantic comedy ever?
Uh, when Harry Met Sally, it is the blueprint. It is the blueprint for a lot of what we see as rom-com. And I want you to, when you rewatch it a second time, I want you to take notes and then rewatch Ted Lasso. And then I want you to get back to me. And I want you to tell me who's gonna pay for my therapy if the third season doesn't deliver on what it's promising, quote unquote. Maybe. But that's, it's a topic for another time. But what I love about When Harry Met Sally is, it's not my number one, that's why I didn't pass. Um, is that it's the jaws of the rom-com. It is, although if you go back to old Hollywood and you see some of the old Hollywood studio films like Philadelphia Story, you can tell where it came from, but for modern times, that's the jaws of the rom-com, and it's an incredible script. The script I recommend, if I'm not a screenplay writer, but if you are and you want to write a comedy or you want to just write a good goddamn script, read the script for When Harry Met Sally. And Meg Ryan ushered in a generation of female leads that in the rom-com are just, they can be messy, complicated, but also beautiful, and you envy them because you're not her and you want to be. And just, I don't know why they say Meg Ryan is quirky, but she's anything but. Like, to me, she's stunning. I mean, she's beautiful. And like during that time period, she did rom-coms because they were like, yeah, she was considered not as beautiful as what was going on, in the 80s and 90s, but to me she is. Um so When Harry Met Sally, I love Billy Crystal. I love the film. I love the script. It is the blueprint, and mark my words, Ted Lasso season 3, the vision is going to crystallize, no pun intended. Because that rom-com episode in the second season was the biggest When Harry Met Sally callback, and trust me when I say that Ted and Rebecca characters are loosely, I wanna say loosely because they're character-wise, individually, they're not the same, but the narrative of two people that find each other serendipitously in life when they need them the most, and then they become friends and maybe something more. Um I don't know. People should really look into the idea that maybe you do want to marry your best friend and not someone that you want to sleep with but also hate, which is not healthy for the both of you. I think it poses the question of what should we be looking in romantic and interpersonal relationships, because as much as I love the erotic thriller, as much as I love sex on screen, that's all great, but the rom-com works because most pairings start off as either friends or acquaintances, and they first get to know each other, and you don't get that kiss until either halfway or almost till the very end. So I think When Harry Met Sally is the epitome of the rom-com, and I love it. It's not my top one, but it is in my top Nora Ephron films written by her.
Would you say that that's your favorite film directed by Rob Reiner?
I'd have to I'd have to say yes. Yes. Yes.
It would probably be number
Let me
two for me, maybe. I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. It'd be in the top three though. It would be in the top three. He in my opinion, he's a very underappreciated filmmaker. Like in the 80s, Rob Reiner literally directed like a banger after banger. This is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men. Like he just kept directing banger after banger. Like he was pumping out really popular and acclaimed film one after the other. I just it,
Banger after banger. Can you say that? Because that's what he was doing.
yeah, that's what he was doing. He just oh my god, it's incredible. So now, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, ladies and gentlemen of of Richmond,
No,
um, you're the one who started the Ted Lasso talk, and now it's
I
stuck in
didn't
my
do
head.
anything. I had to do it. I'm sorry. Did that character not say wrong communism or some bullshit
He
like that?
did he? I don't recall him.
Okay.
And then one more before I ask the question, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not related to rom coms, ladies and gentlemen of the Dharma Initiative. So, okay, Mariana's like, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
Not lost. I can't do both in one episode.
That will be the one and only time that loss is mentioned. So, what is your all-time favorite romantic comedy?
I must say, Bryan, objectively speaking, it is the best rom-com. It is the Taj Mahal of rom-coms. It is Nora Ephron at her peak. It is the absolute best rom-com ever made, written, directed, and it would be You've Got Mail. Um, and in this essay, I will not take critique because You've Got Mail is just epitome rom-com. It is Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, who I believe is a much better duo than Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, but don't crucify me because I'm right. Also just watch Sleepless in Seattle. And then watch You've Got Mail. But You've Got Mail has everything. It has the perfect alchemy for a rom-com. It has the chemistry. It has the story. It has the emotional impact and depth. It has the length. Like this rom-com is long and I wish it were longer. It has incredible supporting actors. It is the perfect spring, summer, fall, and winter movie. Okay? It goes through all the seasons. And to me, there's nothing more beautiful than the final scene. If you haven't seen this movie, what are you doing? Okay? So I'm not gonna apologize for spoiling it for you. Spoiler alert, it has the best romantic comedy ending ever. But you have Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks who've been corresponding online, but they don't know that it's each other. And then, the film progresses and he owns the equivalent of a Books A Million. And she owns the shop around the corner, which is an independent little bookshop in New York. And this film was it was a recreation from the original The Shop Around the Corner. And eventually they get to know one another and it's hostile because, his conglomerate bookshop is taking over her business, which is, I admit, a very problematic part of the film that is never addressed. He basically takes her out of business. But romantically, they're beautiful. So they've been corresponding separately, AOL, for the kids at home. That was dial-up internet when you had to wait for the internet to load. Um, and eventually they find out. But before they find out, Tom Hanks' character kind of knows that it's her because after their rift and after he already knows. He doesn't like believes he knows. He knows because they agree to meet up and he sees her in the coffee shop before she sees him and she doesn't see him. And he's like, "Oh shit, it's her." Kathleen Kelly, that's her name. I remember because it's like 2K's alliteration. And he was Joe Fox. And he knows it's her, and he kind of does this pause of like, okay, this is the same woman I've been speaking to. It's still her, and I've clearly fallen in love with her. And he sort of starts to like date her in this pseudo way where like he gets close to her. And then at the end, she kind of already figures out that it's him, and they meet up in the park and they see each other, and she says to him, I wish that it was you so badly. Like, she already knew it was him, and she didn't want anyone else that, she wanted the guy that she was going to meet up with, that she's been corresponding this whole time, to be him. So You've Got Mail, it has everything. It's Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks in this movie uh, at their best, in terms of like what you want to see in your leads. Um, and it's the best rom-com. 10 out of 10, no notes, and you can't convince me otherwise because to me, You've Got Mail is the epitome of the rom-com, and that is it.
It really is the epitome of rom-coms. I've only seen You Got Mail one time, and I thought it was really good when I saw it. I really enjoyed it, and I've been meaning to go back to watch it. Yeah, I remember doing a double feature of Sleepless in Seattle and this, and I really enjoyed both of them. I can't tell you which one I like more. I would definitely give you that opinion when I go back and watch these movies again, because it's been so long since I've seen them both. But yeah, I mean, it, like you said, it has everything you want in a rom com. Two very likable leads, a very wholesome story, and yeah, it's Nora Ephron. I mean, she was the queen of rom coms, and there really is no one else like her when it comes to bringing rom coms, especially like post 70s to now. Like, there's nobody that's ever gonna be on that same level. And maybe down the road there could be, but for right now, there isn't. So I totally respect your opinion about you calling this the best rom-com ever. I totally respect that. To me, my favorite romantic comedy is the best one that I've personally seen. Now, when I was a senior in college, one of my last classes that I ever took was a film history class. And we were watching very old school pictures from the 40s to the 60s. And one of the filmmakers that we were tackling was Billy Wilder, who at that point, 2 years ago, and this was literally right before the pandemic started, I hadn't seen any of his films except for Sunset Boulevard. So when I was assigned to watch quite a few of films in his filmography, I said, okay. I mean, not only do I have to do this to pass the class, but okay, I will check out these films. Just about 3 weeks after the world shut down and everything was moved remote, the next film that I was assigned was a certain film. And then I watched said film, and I said to myself, that is one of the funniest movies I think I have ever seen in my life. I could not stop laughing throughout the film. I was compelled by the romance. I thought the performances were stunning. I thought it moved at a very breakneck pace. I'm talking about from 1959, Some Like It Hot. Some Like It Hot to me, objectively, is not a film that may have aged the best. And it's a film that definitely would not fare well if it were made now in the 2020s. But
Wait, Brian, hold on. Let me run and get my charger. It's gonna. Hold on.
I'm gonna pause for dramatic effect. And then we're gonna jump cut to my thoughts. So here we go, jump cut, and now. As I was saying, this is not a film that probably would fare well if it were made now. And I will tell you that I was a little hesitant when I was watching this movie. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, but okay, I'm kind of hooked. So the premise, in case you guys don't know what Some Like It Hot is, so it's set in the 1920s Chicago during the Prohibition era. These two musicians, played by Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, they're struggling musicians. They just want to make it big, make a buck, and do well to survive. One day, they stumble across a murder from the mob. And then the mob notices them. They're like, we have to kill them right now. So then they run, they escape. But then they find out about this great opportunity to where they could perform with this all girls group in Miami. But they realize the only way that they could escape and be a part of this group is by disguising themselves as women. And from there on, we get hilarious, mind-bendingly ridiculous moments. And then we get the lovely Sugar Cane, portrayed by the absolutely luscious, stunning, breathtaking, and really talented Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and Jack Lemmon have incredible chemistry with each other. Like I had hinted at before, when it comes to romantic comedies or just romances in general, you need to have a good parent. If it doesn't work, then your whole movie fails. It's like what Mariana was saying before. Most films nowadays, especially romances, should do read-ins, just to see who pairs well with who. And I think when Billy Wilder was making this film, I mean, I don't think he could have picked anyone better than these three headline the film because they're all great together and separately. Jack Lemmon, oh my god, truly one of the funniest performances ever. He's so frenetic and he's afraid of everything. He's like a basic hypochondriac, just like he is in pretty much everything that I've ever seen him in. This, The Apartment, The Odd Couple, he always brings up, he's like, oh, I'm not feeling very well today. I can't do this. No, I can't do this, Jerry. I can't. Like, oh my God. Oh no, he's Jerry. His friend's name is Joe. My bad. Tony Curtis is so gorgeous in this movie. He is breathtaking. He is very when he dressed up in the sailor outfit, he looks absolutely breathtaking. The comedy here is really fucking funny. I every time I've watched this movie, it's hurt my chest because of how funny it is. It is ridiculously good. When they're on the train and they're sleeping, then everyone pops into Jerry's little cupboard or whatever, or his little bed or whatever, and then everyone's trying to drink Manhattans. And then Sweet Sue like catches them and she just keeps I'm trying to think of what his name is. Oh, she keeps yelling, Beanstalk! Like she just yelling, and then he just randomly pops out of nowhere. Like at the end of the movie, the last time where she yells Beanstalk, he just randomly comes out. It's so funny. It's perfect. And honestly, the editing here is pretty incredible too, because there's some moments to where it's like really clever. There's a sequence where they're running up the stairs in the hotel, and then it just pans over to the left to the elevator, and all of a sudden they're just in their drag in the elevator. They just emerge, and that's brilliant. That's incredible. Like, and you think about how this was the late 50s. They obviously didn't have the technology that we have now when it comes to making movies. And it's just Billy Wilder is a fucking genius. I haven't seen everything that he's done, but I've loved every film from him that I've seen. Like everything from him I love. The Apartment is pretty much a masterpiece. Sunset Boulevard is pretty much a masterpiece. Double Indemnity is, you guess it, pretty much a masterpiece. But to me, Some Like It Hot is my favorite thing that he's directed. And Marilyn's performance, oh my God. Like, it's so heartbreaking watching this, knowing that just 3 years after this movie came out, we lost her. And she was so stunning in this movie. I mean, not just because she was gorgeous to look at, but her performance was just she was so likable in this movie. She was so likable. Sugar Cane was a great character, and no one could have played her better than Marilyn. I can't picture anyone playing that role but Marilyn. And same with the other guys too. I mean, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon were pitch perfect for their roles. And it has one of my top, I would say, top 5 endings of all time in a movie. I think the last sequence where they're running around the hotel from the mobsters and then they run onto the boat with Osgood and the entire time Jerry tries to like convince him, "Oh, we can't get married. We can't do this. I can't have children. I was in jail for a few years. I'll forgive you. I'm a man. Nobody's perfect." Roll credits, movie over. Brilliant. Brilliant ending. Just incredible. It was seriously Jack Lemmon's performance in this is one of the best comedic performances of all time. It honestly might be my favorite comedic performance ever. And this is even my favorite comedy movie of all time. Like that's saying a lot. But Jack Lemmon was brilliant. Billy Wilder was brilliant. Tony Curtis, I mean, my God. And then Marilyn was on a whole other level. Seriously, this film is so entertaining. It's so fun. The romance is great. It's very compelling. It's so good, and it moves just at a very tight. And this movie's over 2 hours long. It's just at 2 hours. It doesn't feel like 2 hours. It feels like an hour, maybe even less. It just goes by so quickly. And that's the thing. It's a screwball comedy, and screwball comedies are supposed to move very frenetically, not move at a snail pace. But this does not move at a snail pace. This moves very frenetically and quick, and it's so good. Everything about this movie to me is great. It to me is my favorite romantic comedy of all time. It's the best one that I've seen. Obviously, I'm sure there's other ones that I could think of that are like on that same level. But for right now, on Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, when we're recording this,
8:58 p.m.
EST. This to me is the best romantic comedy that I've ever seen. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Some Like It Hot.
I mean, I love Billy Wilder. I mean, to me, he is one of the best writers in his moment. And especially the films he directed. Double Indemnity, I love Barbara Stanwyck, and she did Ball of Fire, and I loved her in that. But her in Double Indemnity, it was, I don't know, like just the hottest woman alive being cunty for like 2 hours.
Literally.
I mean, we have to say thank you to Billy Wilder for saying, you know what, Barbara, I will give you a chance to play this role. And she played the hell out of it. And what I love about Billy, especially working with female characters and female actors, is that he gives them so much material. And someone like Marilyn Monroe, who just breaks my heart, just how she's been treated like basically an object, even post-mortem. Norma Jean, Marilyn Monroe, was, to me, it wasn't so much the fame, it's just that she was really goddamn talented. She was just incredible at what she did. And in this film, she was quintessential Marilyn, but you know that she was acting the whole time. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like this persona that she had, you know, she was putting on an act, but she also played the hell out of this role. She was magnetic. She was just charismatic. It's the kind of charisma that you can't manufacture in an actor. And Billy Wilder just knew, like, he just saw actors for what they were worth, and he saw that in Marilyn. And I feel very blessed that we got to see her in this film. Some Like It Hot is probably my top 3 screwball comedies. I have such a weird way of dividing and separating, classifying films because I think about old Hollywood and then I think about contemporary. But old Hollywood has such a wealth of wonderful films, and screwball specifically, like the Philadelphia Story and Ball of Fire and Some Like It Hot. It's a very smart kind of sense of humor. I can't even think of writing a script where the writing is so smart and funny at the same time. And like you said, I think it's all about contextualizing, and I know a lot of people would say, like, "Oh, like, the way, drag is portrayed or gender is portrayed." Um, for its time, it was incredibly progressive. I do think there is room for critique in terms of, like, mocking drag but, yeah, it never felt that way to me when I watched, Some Like It Hot. I always felt like Billy Wilder was very intentional in the things that he would do in his films, and I felt like the drag was almost like a savior to these characters. I mean, it literally saved their lives, and it kind of gave an edge to a time period where things like this could only exist in the context of a screwball comedy, and Billy Wilder probably knew that and still was very smart about it. And I mean, I now have to agree with you. I mean, it's a great film. I think it's if you wanna see Marilyn Monroe in a role that just it made her shine, it made her kind of really showcase her acting chops, like, no joke, she was one of the greatest of her time. Her fame not so much her fame, I think just, like, something we should do for her is honor her talent and not her tragedy anymore because it feels so cheap to do that. Um, I feel like we need to start talking about her with a little bit more nuance and a little bit more compassion and a little bit more less objectifying her and more of Norma Jean than the persona she was, I think, to be completely honest with you, forced to have. And at one point, she might have just used it as a way to protect herself. But she's great in this, and Billy Wilder and everybody else in this film. So yeah, I have to agree. It's a great film.
It really, I agree with everything you said about Marilyn too. Norma Jean. I just like, you know, I would like to see her being honored for her talent. Not like I don't like that people keep talking about her because of like the tragedy that happened with her and everything. Like I would just love to see a story brought to life, or maybe just put it to rest. Let us just
Mhm.
marinate and appreciate the work that we have gotten from her. And it may not have been like a bajillion pieces of work, but from what we got so much goodness because of how talented she was. And a lot of people really don't recognize that. They look at her and say, like, oh, she's one of the sexiest women ever. And she absolutely was breathtaking, but she was also an incredibly talented performer at
Mhm.
what she was able to do. This 70-year inch, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I mean, there's so many films to talk about with her. And I mean, I don't like to say that like awards matter and whatnot. Looking at the Academy Awards that this was nominated for, it was nominated for Best Director, Best I just lost it. Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor for Jack Lemmon, Cinematography, Art Direction, and Costume Design. Should have nominated Marilyn for Best Actress, and you 100% should have nominated the film for Best Picture. I have this thing where I'm annoyed. You nominate the director, but you don't nominate the picture. Like,
Mhm.
I'm so tired of that. And now, granted, it's different now that there's 10 Best Picture nominees, but I mean, that's just a whole different discussion for another time. But yeah, Some Like It Hot is a masterpiece. It's a masterclass across the entire board. If you're someone that inspires to write comedy, I think this is a good script to look over. It really just doesn't get better than this. I mean, this is top 5 comedies of all time for me. My favorite romantic comedy, and I just love it so much. So before talking about some of the films that didn't make our cut, let's recap our list. So Mariana, what is your list from 5 to 1?
I have the memory of a goldfish. I from 1 to 5?
From 5 to
Okay.
1.
5 to 1? What was the first one that I said?
You
Oh my
said
god.
you said, hold on. You said enough said.
Enough said. Okay, how dare I forget enough said? Enough said, The Proposal, At Middleton, Then in Real Life, and You've Got Mail.
And to recap my list, at number 5, we have The Terminal. Number 4, The Holiday. Number 3, Crazy Stupid Love. Number 2, When Harry Met Sally. And number one, my favorite romantic comedy, Some Like It Hot. So that is it of our list. So Mariana, what are some films, some rom-coms that you want to give a shout out to that unfortunately didn't make your list, besides the ones that we talked about that made my list? What are some honorable mentions for you?
Okay, so I have to mention Made in Manhattan, Ray Fiennes
Ray Fiennes and
and
J Lo.
J-Lo. Another duo that you would have never in a million years put together, but
J
they were
Lo and
great
the
in that
Dark Lord.
film.
I love it. J Lo and Voldemort. Great pairing.
J-Lo and Voldemort. Listen, objectively, I know conversation. What is it? Sleeping with Other People is one of the greatest modern rom-coms.
That
I
movie's
just
so
don't
good.
like Alison Brie.
You don't
It's
like
so
Allison
good, but I
Brie?
don't. No, no. There's just something about women like Alison Brie that whine when they have everything going for them, and they're like, oh my God. I don't know. Anyways, it's my own personal. Sleeping with Other People is objectively a great rom-com, but it's not for me. But I felt like I should mention it anyway, since it's a
Mm-hmm.
movie everybody loves. Um, Listen, I have my moments. The Wedding Planner. The Wedding Planner is a great one. Um, why am I blanking? There's so many great ones. Sleepless in Seattle is another great one.
Mm-hmm.
It's another 90s. I cannot believe I forgot. Oh, Something's Gotta Give. Was
Uh-huh.
also old people peaked in that movie. The conversation around old people falling in love peaked right there, unfortunately. Um, Hold on. There has to be more. I have to shout them out. This is their time. Rom-coms. I cannot believe I forgot My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, what can I say but My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Something's Gotta Give.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Defending Your Life with Meryl Streep. If you haven't seen that one,
Haven't seen it.
oh, it's so good. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Um,
Not my favorite
Happy,
McConaughey movie, but it's pretty
it's up
fun.
there. Much Ado About Nothing, the version with Emma Thompson. So goddamn
That
good.
that is really good. That is really good.
Denzel Washington just bodies Shakespeare.
Oh my God, yes, he was so good in that, and then his work in Tragedy
Macbeth.
Macbeth was unbelievable. I'm telling you right now, he probably would have been my personal pick for best actor.
He was mine.
Like he would have been my personal pick.
I
I,
was sitting there flabbergasted. I was like, what? Did no one see this movie?
it's sickening. And I went to the world premiere of it at the New York Film Festival, and I remember just being so floored, like by it. Like it felt very euphoric watching that on the big screen. With keep in mind with Denzel in the audience, I was like, oh my God, what if I don't like this movie? Denzel's gonna come and find me. Oh,
Insane.
it's incredible.
Oh, Moonstruck. Serendipity. Um, the original Shop Around the Corner is really good. Down with Love. His Girl Friday. Philadelphia Story.
His Girl
My
Friday.
Best Friend's Wedding. I will stop there because if I keep going, the list is just gonna be too long.
All right, so here we go for me. His Girl Friday.
Yes.
We have oh my God, I'm blanking. Now I'm blanking. Oh my God.
50 First Dates.
I do really like that movie. That's a good. When Singer's really good too. Um, God darn it! Oh my God. Uh, let's look this up. Okay. 500
Phantom
Days of
Thread.
Summer. Phantom Thread, the greatest rom-com of all time.
I mean,
That is
somebody had to say it.
that is for you, Sophia. Sophia of Oscar Wilde. If you're listening to this, this is for you. Phantom Thread is the best rom-com of all time. I saw a tweet.
Period.
I saw a tweet today. Someone saying Gone Girl is their favorite romantic comedy. Oh, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Honestly,
I couldn't.
bound by narcissism are those two. So yeah, I would have to agree.
I couldn't stop laughing. Big Sick recently is a great film. Kumail Nanjiani and Zoe Kazan, fantastic film. Yeah, Moonstruck is phenomenal.
Ooh.
Moonstruck is phenomenal. Honestly, to me, one of the best things about that movie is how Nicolas Cage delivers every single line in that movie. You know, literally this first sequence where him and Cher kiss, and he just lifts her up and he just yells, "Son of a bitch, where are you taking me? To the bed." I love it. I love it so much. I love it.
I am a Nicolas Cage Con Air truther. And I will die on that. Actually, I'm a Nicolas Cage truther, period.
Yes, yes, we love that. For Your Virgin is hilarious. I'm so Steve Carell. The waxing scene is one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in my life. Sweaty pie hole. Como se llama? No, Kelly Clarkson.
Not Kelly Clarkson.
I love how The Nice Guys is labeled here, so it is indeed a rom-com.
What did I tell you? It is a rom-com.
I love how someone put the series Hannibal as a rom-com.
You know what? That person is valid.
I haven't
because that person was me.
I haven't seen that show, but I love Mads. Half-Blood Prince. That's not a romantic comedy.
What list are you looking at?
I don't even want to say. Oh, here we go. 500 Days of Summer. Masterpiece. I think that's a great film. I love JGL so much. He's one of my faves. Another great JGL romantic comedy, Don John, which makes fun of romantic comedies, but it is also a romantic comedy on its own. And Scarlett Johansson does one of the best fake New York accents I have ever heard in my life in that movie. It's so flawless. It's so good. And Tony Danza stole the whole movie. He stole the whole movie. He was so good in it as JGL's father. Another great romantic comedy to me, and I know that the filmmaker that made it is not the best subject to talk about, but I cannot deny how much this film meant a lot to me as someone who studied film. Midnight in Paris, and I think the reason why I love it so much is that it's just Owen Wilson walking around going, "Wow, I'm in the 20s. Wow, the 2010s suck. My fiance's a bitch. Wow, man. Wow, Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Gertrude Stein. Wow."
Not the wow.
Oh my god. No, I genuinely think that movie is a masterpiece. It's so lovely and whimsical, and it's such an interesting concept. It's so good. And I don't know how it's that good, but it's that good. And it won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, and I'm so happy it did because that was a very, 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 very deserving win. In terms of other romantic comedies that I just love very much, The Apartment, of course. Again, bringing up Billy Wilder. Tootsie. That's a great movie. Oh my god, I'm blanking. Sweet Jesus. There it is, Gone Girl. Wait.
It's a Valentine's Day movie.
Under thriller rom-coms, The Lighthouse.
Wait a minute, The Lake House?
No, The Lighthouse.
Oh, I was like, what? The Lake House. Add that to the list. Not The Lighthouse.
Oh, I mean, if you want to consider that a rom-com.
I mean, just two crazy men going crazy together.
Oh, and then I want to mention two more. One, I want to mention Grease. We recently lost Olivia Newton-John, and I was rewatching Grease very recently. And it's one of my favorite movie musicals, and I just think the pairing of John Travolta and Olivia is unprecedented. They had incredible chemistry together. And then the last one I want to mention is a very recent one, Love, Simon. I remember being very floored by this movie. And I mean, I could tell you a story off camera about a heated argument that I got into about this movie with somebody. But, in terms of coming of age romances, I think it's one of the better ones that we've gotten in the past like 10 years. I love that movie so much. Nick Robinson is incredible in that film. I was a big fan of the show that got spun off from it, Love Victor, which unfortunately just ended after 3 seasons. And where 3 seasons is not enough. They should have made one more season. It's I can't. But to go away from that, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of rom-coms that I could think of. There's probably so many more that I forgot to mention, but that's the power of this genre. There's just so many gems in the rom-coms that it's really hard to pick like your favorites. I mean, it was really tough coming up with this list. I'm sure it was tough for you to come up with your list. So before we close out, what is the last thing you want to say about romantic comedies and
We
Ted
need
Lasso?
them. No. Just we need them. We really need the rom-com to come back. I mean, it to me, it's the beating heart of cinema. It's I mean like the mushy, softer side, the things that make us want to hope and dream and I mean, we all think about it, that we all serendipitously find the right person for us and that's what the rom-com gives us. And like to some people it's cringe, it's cheesy, but it feeds the soul, and love at the end of the day is what gets us going because we talk about how friendship is important, especially between male and female characters, but like we already know that. We've already seen it. It's been done. But the way we communicate in interpersonal relationships is I think a lot more interesting to watch as well. Like, who wants to watch a 2-hour movie where friends stay friends? No one. Like, it's just the way the narrative works. And I think the rom-com, it's in itself one thing, and to try to deconstruct that into losing the romantic aspect of it, fine every now and again, but we go and see these movies to watch people fall in love. And I think it's a genre that should come back and we need to nurture. And that's it.
We have to go back. We have to go back. Like seriously, we need rom-coms to come back. Like when Jack Shepard yells, "We have to go back." We need the
I've had
rom-coms to
enough.
come back.
I'm never coming back to this
No,
podcast
no, don't say
ever
that.
again.
No, but seriously, we need the
I've had
rom-coms to
enough.
come back. I've had enough. We have had we haven't had enough of the rom-coms. We want more of them to come out, and we just hope that more come out and they're great and they're awesome. So that's all I have to say about that. Mariana, thank you so much for coming on to my show today to talk to me about rom-coms. I'm so glad that I got to have you come on here. I love talking with you and just gushing with you for the past hour and a half about rom-coms has been an absolute delight. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for indulging in my lunacy that is my brain in terms of the rom-com. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, you're so welcome. So where can the people find you online?
So on Twitter, I am at Spicy Memory, and I always get questions about what that means. So when you have an intrusive thought or a traumatic memory, someone called it a spicy memory. And, you know, I never looked back. And also you can find Screen Speck at Screen Speck on every socials. And that's where you can find me. And if you don't want to find me, don't look for me.
Yeah, all of her links will be in the description below. You guys can follow me everywhere on social media and Letterboxd at Bryan Suffield. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for the show. Find us on all social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram. And be sure to rate this on any podcasting platform that you're listening to this show. Share it around, spread it around. We really, really appreciate it. So, guys, seriously, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Film Fragments. And we will see you guys for the very next episode. Take care, everybody.